everybody, I'm Coco Cosmos, and today I'll be ranking the Season 1 episodes of Regular Show.
You know who else
likes YouTube ranking videos?
Who? My mom!
Now let's get into it. If you're not familiar with Regular Show, I shall explain. The series follows the adventures of two best friends, Mordecai and Rigby, who work as groundskeepers at a park. The show usually follows the formula of Mordecai and Rigby being asked to do a seemingly simple task by their boss Benson, and somehow it takes a different turn in some supernatural or magical way. Of course, one of the best examples comes from pilot episode The Power. Mordecai and Rigby bust a hole in the wall while wrestling and need money to try to fix it. They try to convince Benson into giving them raises using a keyboard that was stolen from a wizard that they've lovingly named The Power. They go all over the park using the keyboard for various things until they accidentally send Skips to the moon. Mordecai, Rigby, Pops, and Benson all set off to retrieve him when a monster that Rigby summoned attacks, and when they get there, they find Skips and try to use the keyboard, but the batteries die. Skips hops onto the cart using the wires from it, powers the keyboard to get them home. At the end, Mordecai just covers the hole with a poster. When you actually see it happening, you realize how easily the first problem could have been fixed. For me personally, I think it's a good way to start the season off and get us excited for the next episodes. We meet the core characters minus one, and we really see their personalities. And now, on to episode 2. Mordecai and Rigby are put in charge of setting up chairs for a kid's birthday party, and they want to be in charge of something more important. Benson doesn't want them in charge of anything else because he knows they slack off. Though knowing that, he ends up making a deal with them that if they can get the job done, that they don't have to set up the chairs next time. In this episode, we also get introduced to Muscle Man and High Five Ghost when they're in charge of picking up the special entertainment. Mordecai and Rigby run out of chairs and go check in the shed for more when they discover the old arcade games. As predicted, Rigby persuaded Mordecai to slack off instead of finishing the job. After beating Rigby at every game, Mordecai tries to head back to work, but Rigby finds the Destroyer of Worlds. It has a giant out of order sign that Rigby ignores, and after Mordecai opens the wiring hatch, has an even longer note begging them not to turn on the game. After connecting the wires and the game's villain manifesting into real life, they go find Skips for help. Skips gets the idea to connect all of the different video games together, which creates a character of their own after hitting the start buttons. After the Destroyer of Worlds blasts open a shed, Mordecai spots the final chairs and goes to grab them but gets pinned. This leaves them relying on Rigby's button mashing skills. This actually helps him defeating the Destroyer of Worlds. At the end, Benson says this is the last time he'll entrust them with something as important as the chairs, which is what they wanted all along. I find this episode interesting because of the video game coming to life aspect of it, and it makes it one of my personal favorites. It also showcases Mordecai and Rigby's dynamic of the trying to be responsible one and the goofball that convinces otherwise. And I don't know if it's just me, but the way Benson yells at Mordecai and Rigby low-key reminds me of Squidward. And now, on to episode 3. Mordecai and Rigby see a commercial for a fist pump concert, and Rigby really wants to go, but Mordecai has no interest. That's until Margaret says that she's going. Now they need money for the concert, so they ask Benson for extra work. Something I noticed just now, his little coin turner thing is in the shape of a heart. Anyways, they also start drinking coffee to keep up their energy. They go to buy the tickets, but only the deluxe are left, so they don't have enough. Rigby is willing to work more, but Mordecai doesn't want to. Mordecai needs motivation. And her Margaret. Side note, I'm not much of a fan of Mordecai and Margaret as a couple, and I'm willing to debate that he's at his worst whenever she's around. Now they both need the energy, and they've run out of coffee. They meet a giant coffee bean and his translator. They offer them free coffee in exchange for a signature on their contract. Rigby signs it, and they both get to work not knowing what they've agreed to. Mordecai and Rigby earn enough for only 2 tickets, but then the bean and a translator expected 4 tickets. They steal Mordecai and Rigby's tickets, making them drink chamomile tea, and lead them on a chase to the venue. Mordecai and Rigby get the tickets and head back inside. Mordecai finds Margaret with her boyfriend, and Rigby falls asleep immediately, missing the entire concert that they worked for. So it turned out it was all for no reason. It's not a bad episode, but I'm not a fan of the Mordecai does things just for Margaret's attention type episodes. On to episode 4. Rigby is sick of being player 2 whenever he and Mordecai play video games, so Mordecai suggests playing Punchy Sport, a game where they just punch each other and whoever folds loses, I guess. Rigby hates it because he's obviously not as strong as Mordecai. Rigby gets fed up when he sees an ad for Death Kwon Do and decides to sign up, but the owner and instructor deems him unworthy. When the owner of the sub shop turns his back, Rigby rips out the Death Punch page. He learns the move, uses it on everyone to get his way, and gets drunk with power. Mordecai goes to the same sub shop and steals the Death Block. He then returns to the park to take on Rigby, who is shocked that Mordecai didn't collapse from his punch. They reach a stalemate so much that they make a hole in the earth that fills with lava. Mordecai notices the danger, but Rigby only cares about beating Mordecai. Then shows a montage of Rigby getting beaten up by everyone at the park except Benson, but the worst by Mordecai. He then sees how distressed Rigby is and makes him finally think that he won. Mordecai then uses the second move he learned, the Death Jump, to get them out of the hole. The best friends again, yay! Mordecai and Rigby go inside to play a video game where Rigby finally gets to be player 1 but dies immediately and has to be player 2 again. Overall, it's a pretty solid episode, I think. Now for episode 5. Rigby finds a plate in the garbage and thinks it's a great idea to put cake on it, except neither he nor Mordecai have enough money for cake mix that's $1.50. They even resort in going to the free store. But luckily, it's Skips' birthday, so they think they get free cake. But since Skips is private about it, there's no celebration, which means no cake. Mordecai convinces Benson to throw a party for him anyways by saying how great Skips is. Mordecai and Rigby come up with the idea to throw a surprise party so he can't say no. They get the chocolate cake from the snack bar and find Skips in the woods performing a ritual. Then Rigby interrupts him. Turns out it's the key to Skips' immortality. Mordecai and Rigby follow after him. Skips ends up turning to dust as a result of him not finishing the ritual. Turns out the Guardians of Youth love cake, so Mordecai trades the cake for Skips' life. Pops brings a spare cake, but sadly it's vanilla. I cannot stress enough how much I love Skips, and we got a peek at his life before the park, though it doesn't really coincide with what we see later in season 5, unless I missed something. I love me a good Skips-centered episode though. Now for episode 6. Mordecai and Rigby grill Benson's hot dogs that he instructed them not to grill. They end up burning them, and Mordecai gets fed up with Rigby. Rigby promises he can fix it, and they go to the park meat locker to get more. Rigby makes the situation worse by leaving the door closed and breaking the cooler vent, blasting cold air in. Mordecai passes out from the temp, and Rigby tries to fix it. There he finds talking hot dogs that promises to help them if Mordecai and Rigby take them to a barbecue so they can get grilled and eaten. Rigby trusts them for whatever reason, and Mordecai is skeptical but goes along with it. They take the hot dogs to the picnic, and that's where the hot dogs turn on them, vowing revenge for their fellow hot dogs that have been devoured. They capture Benson, Skips, Pops, and Mordecai and put them in a marinade. Rigby swears he can fix it but isn't sure how until he sprays mustard on them and the hot dogs start eating each other. When everyone is safe, they get upset and ask Rigby what happened, and lo and behold, he turns it on Benson by reminding everyone that he brought the premium hot dogs. This one is honestly one of the more mid-episodes, but it sticks to the formula of weird stuff happening after being asked to do one simple task. Time for episode 7. Rigby takes Benson's grilled cheese sandwiches and have to get him more. Rigby hints that he's so great at lying, and Mordecai thinks he's better. The line is super long at the restaurant when they see 2 astronauts skipping the line. They lie and say they're astronauts too. Soon there's more and more lies until they get into a dangerous situation with antimatter and have to lie their way out. At the end, Rigby tells the truth to the astronauts and they get kicked out immediately and dropped off at the park. They give Benson his sandwiches back and he asks what happened to them. In an ironic twist, Rigby tells the truth, but Benson doesn't believe him, and Mordecai tells a simple lie and gets believed. To me, that was another mid one. The most exciting part was the antimatter, but that's to be expected because it was the climax. Now for episode 8, I guess. Mordecai buys a cologne called Dude Time to attract women, Margaret, and instead it attracts bro dude unicorns. They then explain that it actually attracts the homies instead of women. The unicorns then say they'll help him with Margaret. Turns out they're just a bunch of jerks and they trash the house. Mordecai and Rigby go to Skips for help and he tells them there's only one way to get rid of them. Benson then blows up their car so they won't come back. It's a really bland episode, not much to say about it. Also, I forgot there was a jealous Rigby aspect of it, but like, it's literally so forgettable. Now for episode 9. Mordecai and Rigby make a bunch of prank phone calls because of videos they watched made by the master prank caller. They end up making prank phone calls all over the park and Benson's apartment, thinking it's hilarious. They decide that to be the best, they have to prank the master prank caller himself. They lose access to the house phone and Pops lets them use his old cell phones. They fail many times but make the master prank caller angry, so he teleports them back in time to the 80s. They end up teleporting Pop, Skips, and Benson with them because they don't know what to do. At the end, they end up tricking the master prank caller with a phone recorder and they make a prank call together. This one was pretty interesting. I like the 80s references in them, but the little man on the phone was weird though. Now for episode 10. The park is having an audit and needs to be saved. Mordecai brings up Rigby's accountant brother Don, but Rigby very much doesn't want him to be there. Don is as nice as one could be, but Rigby can't stand him. There's a flashback to Rigby's 6th birthday, where Don comes in and wishes him a happy birthday. Rigby orders him back to the basement, but Don says he just wants some sugar. Rigby refuses, but everyone at the party, even Mordecai, deems it not a big deal and gives Don sugar. Don comes to help anyway, and the only thing he wants is sugar from his brother, but Rigby refuses, even going as far as saying he hates him. Don runs off in tears. Rigby tried to prove that they don't need him to do the taxes and breaks the computer. Benson is furious, and Mordecai asks why he hates his brother so much, and it comes down to living in his little brother's shadow. In the end, Don comes back to help, but before he finishes, he asks Rigby one last time for sugar. I don't know if it's because I'm an only child, but Rigby comes across as a spoiled brat in this episode. But I can also get that everyone preferring your sibling must be difficult. It was a little peek into Rigby and I kinda enjoyed it. And now for episode 11. Mordecai and Rigby are in charge of running the snack bar and are bored. That's until Rigby says the snacks are free. Cue montage of them eating food that makes you want to eat healthy just by watching them. Which is exactly what Mordecai does, but on the other hand, Rigby does the opposite. Rigby eats so much junk food that his body separates from him. Skips and Mordecai try to help him get his body back. In this form, he's just a green blob that's pretty much immobile, until he puts himself in a trash can with a roller skate taped to the bottom of it. He rolls up behind Skips and Mordecai just as they are about to catch his body, but spooks it away. In an unfortunate event, Rigby gets thrown into a dumpster where he finds a fellow that has suffered a similar fate, but instead of junk food, it's too much lifting. Rigby tells him that his body is still viable and he sets off to steal it. This starts a chase sequence where it ends up with the body thief getting removed from Rigby's body by getting run over. Rigby then takes his body back. After he comes to, where Mordecai informs him that only Pops gets free snacks and they have to work the snack bar for the next 6 months to pay it back. Honestly, my favorite part was just that Rigby was a blob, and there was a lesson here, but he probably didn't learn anything. Now for episode 12, my favorite episode, the best episode of season 1. Oh my god, I'm so excited. So, Rigby orders band t-shirts for a band that consists of him and Mordecai that doesn't exist. Yet. Mordecai doesn't want to look stupid in front of Margaret, so he tries to play it off when she asks, and now they're signed up for an open mic night. Problem is, neither one of them know how to use instruments. So they go to Pops for help, where he lends them vinyls to learn how to play instruments. They try playing them all at once to speed up the learning process and end up spilling a soda on one of the outlets where the regular players are plugged in. This ends up summoning their future selves where they've become British rock stars. Cue montage of them looking and acting like rock stars. Mordecai realizes they never actually learned how to play anything, but his future self assured him that it'll be fine. They go on stage to perform and it turns out amazingly, until Mordecai realizes they've actually been lip syncing. He stops the CD and announces as such, and it's not cool, so they're breaking up the band. Future Mordecai tries to convince him otherwise, but he stands firm, making them disappear. Margaret introduces Mordecai to her boyfriend, in which Rigby says maybe he should have just kept lip syncing. Look, listen, Party Night is a banger. Chef's Kiss is too good. Also, fun fact, there was a live action video that was released.
2 eyes on the prize, and the prize in my eyes is 10 times the surprise in your eyes as I kiss you goodnight.
Okay, that's all for season 1, and I will be doing all of the other seasons, including the movie, and they'll be separate videos instead of one big one. Regular Show was one of my favorite shows in my early teen years. Okay, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Coco Cosmos out.